Welcome, everyone, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and it's been a while. We're doing something a little bit different today, at least a little bit different than what we've done the last few months, which is we're going to do a recap episode. We haven't done one of these for, it's been at least 6 months. We've been so busy, and we've interviewed so many really, really cool guests that we haven't had a chance to sit down and just kind of go through all the awesome things that we've learned. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of that today. This isn't going to be a very long one, but I want to sit down and kind of just chat about some of the cool things we've really learned over the last few months. These recap episodes are fun for me because it's fun to reflect and just think about, have I really gotten better? What have I tried to do? What have I tried to learn from some of these awesome people that I've had the chance to sit down with? And it's cool. It's really cool for me. So I'm not gonna be able to cover everybody. We've done more than 30 episodes in the last 6 months. And so I'm not gonna be able to hit all of the really awesome guests that we've interviewed here on the podcast, but I want to make sure we talk about some of the high points for sure. The first thing that kind of really caught my eye, I was going through my list here of all the people that we've interviewed. The first thing that I really remembered and wanted to make sure we hit on was we had Eric Sprague from Blue Collar Nation, the Blue Collar Nation podcast, as well as Super Tech University, came on and did several episodes with us. Eric, outside of Katie or Derek, has probably been the most interviewed person on the podcast, and I consider him a friend and a mentor. He's taught me a lot about both kind of the podcasting game and just, things about business and entrepreneurship, just by who he is. And we had him on for a couple of episodes. The big thing that, I really wanted to hit at is we had him on around the first part of the year. We had him on in January, and we talked about goals and goal setting. Goals are a big thing that I think are missed in the business world, and it's not for lack of trying. Goals are set all the time, but a lot of people don't make any plans to achieve those goals. Eric is a big believer in goals, and he sets really awesome, really huge goals. He talked about the goals that he has for Super Tech University, with him and Larry and what they're trying to do there. And, they're trying to, double their business. And he just has some really, really large goals. And he talked about how setting those goals is great. Setting those goals are important. But if you don't sit down and make a plan of actually how you're going to accomplish that, it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't. And, I know that's, again, it seems like common sense. It seems like something that should just be done no matter what. But the way he talked about it in his episode was really, really impactful to me. He's just been a big believer in setting goals and achieving goals and trying to strategically plan for it. And a few episodes later, we, just to kind of coincide with that theme of goals and making plans for goals, our boss, Derek, one of our bosses, Derek, lives out of state. And so when we get him here in Idaho, we try to record a podcast with him in person. Him and Katie were in the office doing our quarterly planning, which, here at Spot On Solutions, we sit down once a quarter and kind of go through what our goals are for the next quarter. And we go through our goals for the year, but that we break them down into quarterly goals. And then we talk about what we're going to do to accomplish those goals. And we have all of these different things that we do. We do a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is just an analysis of how we're doing as a company. We do wins and losses. We break down all of our plans into specific, we have ownership roles. So, Katie might own a specific goal. I might own a specific goal. And we break it down into all of these really, really specific plans. And it coincided real well with, the conversation that I had with Eric, because we're big on goals. We want to, dream big. We believe in big things. We believe that we're capable of doing big things. But at the end of the day, you have to have plans. And we're big believers in it. We practice what we preach here at Spot On Solutions. And so we talk to our clients all the time about having plans and planning and setting goals for their marketing, whatever it might be. But if you don't have a plan to execute on those goals, it doesn't really make any difference. So it was a great conversation, and it was cool to talk about that with Eric, but then also talk with Katie and Derek, who have been doing these quarterly planning meetings for nearly a decade. for here, here at Spot On Solutions, and kind of see how they've put those plans into place. And it's been really, really cool to be a part of, and kind of help participate in some of those quarterly plannings, which it's just been really, really awesome. We also, over the last 6 months, got to interview some really, great business owners. We got to interview guys like Ron Jones. For those of you who don't know who Ron Jones is, Ron Jones owns several franchises in the Restoration One franchise system, and he's just an awesome business owner. He's a big believer in knowing and understanding your numbers. And, we sat down for his interview, and he became a part of the restoration industry and has kind of been a big player in both R1 and just the restoration industry in general, but he didn't have a background in the restoration industry. His background was in tech, if I remember correctly. Like he just didn't come to, he didn't come to restoration because he had a background in it, or even a background in construction or another home service industry. He came to restoration because he had done the numbers and knew that it was a viable business and that he could approach restoration in a different way than anybody else had approached it before. He immediately, when he bought his first franchise, hired somebody to kind of take over the day-to-day operations because he didn't have the knowledge. He didn't have the knowledge to, go in and remove water from a basement or, dry out drywall. He didn't have that kind of real technical knowledge, but he knew how to run a business, and he knew how to understand numbers and how to make his business profitable. And so that's how he's really grown his business. And it was fascinating to listen to him talk about, owning a restoration business from a completely different style. It was really cool to kind of listen to him. And he's been a great partner here at Spot On Solutions. He's referred a lot of clients to us, which is, again, for selfish reasons, is just really, really awesome that he's done that. But he's a big believer in what we're doing here. And we've been able to hopefully, provide some really awesome results for him. And in turn, he's kind of, shared and recommended us to other clients, which has been really cool. Ron was an awesome interview, and he's very, very humble. He's doesn't believe that what he's done is special by any means, but he is doing some really special things within Restoration One, but also just as a business owner himself. It's been really, really cool. A few episodes later, it was actually quite a bit later, we actually got to have on the president of R1, which was really, really amazing, Tom Gisler. And Tom came on, and the real kind of big piece to what he talked about was building this community. Franchise systems, and it was cool to hear him talk about it because a few episodes later we got to interview Dan Casera with the core group, and they both kind of approached the franchise system in a completely different way than I had heard it talked about before, in that they want to build communities. Tom specifically talked about how he believes that if he can build a community within Restoration One, and that if he can teach the franchisees and coach them in the right way, that those franchisees can make a difference in their communities, and that those communities can make a difference in the cities or areas that they live in, and then in their state, and from the state to the country. He's a real big believer in the big picture of everything, which is he can make a difference, and that franchisees and business owners can make a difference as well. And so it's a completely different approach than what I've heard before. So much of the business world, if I can get on my soapbox a little bit, but so much of the business world is about the grind and going out and getting yours and only being concerned with yourself and your own success. And it was refreshing to hear from both Tom and Dan and a lot of other, business owners and, executives that we've interviewed, that there's something more important than that. And for them, it was building a community. For both Tom and Dan, they want to build a community. And I love that. I love that there are people out there that care more about making a difference in the world than necessarily making a difference, in their bottom line. And it's just really, really refreshing to hear. Again, just because of the nature of the business world that we live in. I work for a business. I hope to, maybe own a business one day. And so there's elements of that are important. The, getting up and grinding and working hard and trying to go get what's yours. But if you can do that and also make a difference, I think you're going to be better for it. And it's been really, really cool to listen to learn from some awesome business owners like that. Another awesome business owner that we had on was Chuck Violand. Chuck Violand's name is thrown around a lot in the cleaning and restoration world, as it should be. Chuck is awesome. I had, Derek and Katie talk about him a lot, and they're actually out at the Violand Summit right now as I am recording this, which is funny that we're talking about it. But they've talked about how much they love Chuck and how awesome he's been for them, and how much he's helped Spot On Solutions grow. But I hadn't had the chance to meet him. And so the first time I got to meet him was sitting down and recording the podcast with him. And I can say honestly that Chuck is as advertised. He is amazing. And he's a great guy that, again, truly cares about helping people grow their business. And that's what Violand does. Like, that's what Violand management does, is they truly care about coaching their clients into growing their businesses. And it was just, it was awesome to get to sit down with him. Again, very, very humble. And I bet if you really pressed him on it, doesn't believe what he's doing is special, but it is really special. And he's helped a lot of business owners grow their business, both in and outside of the restoration industry. I mean, Spot On Solutions, the clients we serve are in the restoration industry, but we're a digital marketing agency. And he's, was really good to Katie and Derek when Spot On Solutions first started, and helped them, build their client list and grow and learn more about their own business. And Chuck is just awesome. And he's a wealth of knowledge. And, if I could point anybody to Violand management, I would, because I know they've helped a ton of business owners, and they will continue to help a lot of business owners in the cleaning and restoration space. Cause that's just, they believe in it. They're good at it, and they care about, helping people grow, which is just, it's really, really awesome. We got to do something really special for the month of May. And I want to make sure we recap that. May just ended a few weeks ago. But we really got to do something special during that month, which was May, as I'm sure a lot of people know, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And Katie sent me a message a month or two before May. It might have been April, could have been March. I'm not sure exactly, but sent me a message and said, hey, we should do something where we have a mental health expert come onto the podcast and talk to us about mental health and mental health issues, and how it pertains to the home service industry. And I messaged her back and said, well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Why don't we launch something during May? And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring on a mental health expert that could talk to us about increasing our knowledge about mental health and mental health awareness. And then, we could kind of, just because of our knowledge of the restoration world, could kind of relate it back to the restoration world. And so we connected with a really awesome mental health expert. His name's Ashton Holbrook, and he was amazing. He agreed to come on. We actually did 3 episodes with him in May. We did another episode that I'll talk a little bit about with another person, but Ashton came on and did 3 episodes with us to talk about mental health and mental health awareness. And, we kind of spent some time in the first couple of episodes with him really defining what mental health is, what are some common signs of it, what are some common symptoms that you can notice both in yourself and maybe in your coworkers and in your teammates and stuff like that. But then he gave some really great insights into just life and how to live your life, and his secret to happiness, which I'm not going to expose. I want you to go back and listen to those episodes. His episodes would have been 61, 62, and 64. And he talks about his secret to happiness. But it's really, really eye-opening for us in this industry, in the cleaning and restoration and just home service industries as a whole. Mental health is not something that's talked about. And it's not, and I don't mean to pick on our industries specifically, because it's not talked about near as much as it should, just in general. But I really do believe in the home service industry, whether it's construction or plumbing or HVAC or lawn care or whatever it is, that mental health is not talked about as much as it should be. And I think, a lot of the workforce in these industries are young. A lot of them are young men, and mental health at times can affect even more severely than women. It can affect men really, really severely. And, Ashton talked about some of those things and how you can catch some of those signs and noticing patterns and how you can just better help those around you and help yourself. I think it was really introspective for me. We talked with him about how if you can better define mental health in your workspace, how it's going to make you and your employees more efficient. But at the end of the day, I would say that if you just want to be a better human being, a better person, you should learn more about mental health, both for your own sake and for the people you care about. And I think Ashton did a really good job of educating us, which was amazing. The other piece to that mental health awareness series was we wanted to bring someone on that was in kind of a more professional, not that Ashton's not a professional, but that worked in kind of a corporate environment in our industry that could maybe speak to mental health awareness. And so we had the awesome opportunity of having Marcy Richardson come on, who is a director of HR for a restoration company. She came on and talked about, what is it actually like dealing with some of these mental health issues or mental health challenges in the workspace. And she talked about some of those challenges. One of the big things that she hit at that I loved was she talked about building trust. If your employees don't trust you, they're never going to come to you if they have a problem. I think that's probably the biggest challenge that a lot of employers face, is that they don't even know when their employees are dealing with a mental health challenge, because they're either not aware of it. One, they're not paying close enough attention, right? Or two, they don't have any kind of trust or rapport with their employees, so their employees aren't coming to them and talking to them about those problems. So one of the big things that Marcy hit at was like, you got to build trust with your team. If your team doesn't trust you, they're not going to come to you with problems. The other thing, Marcy's in a unique place where she works at a company that's large enough that needs a director of HR, right? I don't want to say most, but there's a lot of restoration and cleaning and construction and plumbing and HVAC companies in the country that aren't big enough to have a director of HR. So I said, what does a company like that got to do? And she said, what she has done at her space, which I think any employer could do. First, you got to build some trust. And then two, create a safe space for your employees. Now, safe space is kind of a buzzword these days. And I don't mean it in the way that you're probably thinking I'm meaning it. What she has done is she's got her office at her place of work, and she basically tells the employees there, hey, my office is a safe space. You can come into my office and we will close the door, and you can yell and scream and vent and cry and complain about your employees and whatever. And guess what? Once you're done venting, we can leave that office and nobody's got to talk about it. And it's great. And you can just go on about your work. And I think having something like that at any place of work, whether you're in, the home service industry or not, having a safe space in your office that your employees can feel comfortable enough to vent about their day, to vent about a customer, to maybe even vent about a coworker is really, really important. And she says, there's always going to be times where that maybe needs to be elevated to management or to the owner. But she says most of the time they just need to vent, and they just need to come in and have a conversation about that. And I think that's something that could be very, very easily implemented at just about any place of work. Create a place that your employees feel comfortable enough to vent to you. They trust that you're not going to then go behind their back and hurt them, that you're just going to take that information, let them talk to you, tell them it's going to be okay, and that you can move on. And I think that would drastically improve a lot of the mental health of your employees. It's really, really cool. So anyways, that was kind of our series in May on mental health awareness. Go back and check it out. Ashton's interviews were great. Marcy's interview was great. Go back and give those a listen. I think they're extremely valuable for anyone that owns a business or is just an employee of a business. I think it'll really, really help you learn more about yourself and those people around you as well. The last kind of thing that I wanted to make sure we hit at and hit a recap on, and like I said, there's dozens of other episodes that you need to go check out. There's been some awesome interviews with people like Dr. Nathaniel Hearn and, people like Peter Lyons. There's all sorts of other podcasts that you can go check out that we, interviewed, or episodes that we completed over the last 6 months. But the last one I wanted to hit at was actually just a couple of weeks ago. We had Jake Johnson, who's the owner of Spray Tech Solutions, is one of our clients here in Blackfoot, Idaho. He came on and talked about a really, really cool lesson that I actually brought up in a different podcast that I was recording. But he came on and talked about, he grew up on a farm, and one of the lessons that he learned on that farm was that, we live in a day and age full of instant gratification. And he learned on a farm that is not always the case. And some of the best things in the world come to those who wait, right? So he talked about lessons of something that you plant in the spring and you invest a lot of money in it, and it's a large investment. You're spending all this money to, maybe you're planting potatoes or corn or whatever it is. You're not going to see any real dividends of that until much later, 6 months later, until the fall. He talked about, raising animals, and it's the same concept. You would start raising these animals, and you'd spend all this money and invest all this time and hours on end. And then, just with the hope that at some point in the future, months down the road, you might be able to recoup some of that cost, or maybe even make a little bit of money. And he said that was a great lesson for him in now owning a business, is that not everything in the world is going to come to you instantly. Sometimes it requires an investment. And if you are willing to invest time and sometimes a little bit of money, it's going to pay dividends for you down the road. You might not see it right now, and that's hard. It's hard to not see the results right now in this world of instant gratification. But if you can just push through and you're willing to wait, good things come to those who wait, it'll pay dividends for you. Invest time and invest money now. And yes, you might not see an instant return on that investment, but eventually you will, as long as you continue to work hard and keep trying. And it was just a great lesson to learn from Jake. He's still fairly new in the business world. He's owned his business for 4 or 5 years now, but it was really, really eye-opening to hear that lesson from him, because I think it's true across any industry. We're so caught up in the instant gratification that sometimes we can miss out on big opportunities if we're just willing to wait. So anyways, that's kind of it for this recap episode. Again, thank you all for listening. Please subscribe, or you can find us on any major podcast platform and on YouTube as well. But we've had some really awesome episodes recently, and I just wanted to hit on a few of them, and we're going to continue to have awesome episodes in the future. So thanks for listening. This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.